Hello, I'm moving along with the next stage of my quadcopter project. Now that everything is, all the basics are working properly, that is just the radio control link to fly it, you might want to check some of my other recent videos for a bit of background into this project. But now that the basics are covered, I'm doing a little bit more experimentation with autonomous control. And here's where I need to go back to using the car for a while, because autonomous stuff, if it goes wrong, is going to lead to crashes inevitably. So I'm using the car again to cut down on breakages and injuries, shall we say. So what I have here is a car, the same car I had before, obviously, and it has a whole bunch more stuff on it now. The main two additions are GPS module at the front, and at the back there is a compass up on top of the piece of wood. So the GPS is used to find the position in the world of where the car is, and the compass obviously tells it which direction it needs to go to get to another location in the world. And the reason the compass is up here is because there's a large motor in here with a honking great set of magnets inside it, which completely ruin the magnetic readings of the compass if it gets anywhere near there. So it needs to be held away and up. Actually, I found that the field of the magnetic field around this motor was quite sort of, it was like this sort of shape, so it needed to be quite high rather than back. The other thing that's up here on the antenna is the RF24 module. That doesn't really need to be up there, but the wires that are holding it here were actually holding it up here anyway, because the wires are quite stiff, so I thought I'd just tie it back down to that piece of wood as well. Okay, so you may notice that there are now two Arduinos on here, and that I wasn't really expecting to have to go to that kind of lengths to get this to work. And overall, this last 3 days that I've been working on this have been, let's say, a learning experience, which is a nice way of saying one huge string of problems, one after another, that came up, stuff I've never seen before. And basically for 3 days I was continuously thinking that I was just 2 hours or 3 hours away from finishing this project, and it just went on and on and on. I guess yeah, you may be familiar with that. It's pretty annoying, but I think overall I'm better off for having gone through that experience, but it wasn't much fun at the time. But anyway, so what I'm talking about is a lot of the problems came up due to hitting memory issues. At least I think that's what it was. Stuff would just randomly stop working. I actually had one of those little OLED screens on here as well at one point, and that was working okay until I started doing some stuff with GPS, and then basically it just didn't have enough memory to run everything that I was trying to get it to do. And another problem was that the GPS unit is using software serial to read information through the from the GPS through serial, and that was not playing nicely with the servo libraries that I was using, among other things. So what I figured I had to do, and I've seen this done, you can actually buy purpose-made boards to do this, but I found you can just do it with another Arduino, so that's what I did. But you can take the serial signal from the GPS and read it into, just store it in a little bit of memory on the Arduino here, and then this Arduino can set itself up to be an I2C slave, so that the Arduino at the back there, the main one, can just grab that GPS information anytime it likes. Because another problem with the GPS unit I found, this one only refreshes at 1 Hertz, 1 update per second. Actually can't really see it there, but it's kind of bright. There's an antenna there in a module. It's so bright. Yeah. and it takes a little bit of time too. It's very noticeable. It was sort of like maybe a quarter of a second or more to do that reading. So while it was doing that, all of my steering and my radio control would just be unresponsive. So that was another problem with having the GPS on the main Arduino. So yeah, I had to study up how to make an I2C slave, which will probably turn out to be quite useful in the future, I think. So it's good that I found out how to do that. Other problems, of course, were the magnet problem with the compass. And right from the start, I had also another very, very annoying problem, is that I'd completely lose radio contact every now and then, seemingly randomly. And the problem, at least as far as I can tell, turned out to be the way I've stuck this Arduino on the breadboard there. It's not actually a breadboard, it's just it's a prototype board that is laid out. If you look at it from the bottom, the connections are all the same as on a normal breadboard. So there's two long strips going down each side for positive and negative rails, and then there's vertical strips going down, well, just like a normal breadboard. So this is a very cool prototype board to use, I've thought. So I soldered my Pro Mini on there, and I only soldered up the pins that I was actually going to use, because that's all you really need, and it would just hold itself in there quite well. So any pin I wasn't using, I just left unsoldered, and it's just sort of sitting there floating. And also on the bottom of that, on the prototyping board side, I also didn't solder the ones that I was not going to use. So there were a bunch of pins just sort of sitting there, not really connected. And I found that after a while of driving and just sort of jiggling around like that a little bit, the radio connection would stop. And I figured that one of the connections to the radio might have been bumped on something, as was the problem that I had before. So I spent ages and ages and ages going through trying to reproduce this inside here at my desk, which I just could not do. It just didn't want to reproduce until I went outside. But as soon as I went outside and drove it for about 10 seconds, it would turn off. But anyway, to make a long story short, I think one of the pins in there that I wasn't using could just shake at just the right, vibration when it was driving, so that one of those unused pins would touch on something. And even though they were all unused, I guess it just sort of screwed something up. That's all I can really think of. So that took a long time, because I went through checking all these wires here, and originally I was using these little plug-in ones to plug into the bottom of the RF24 module, so you can take these and plug them in like that, right? So I just had them all plugged in there, and stuck up on there. And I thought, well, maybe they're rattling a bit, they're not working and stuff. So that was the first thing I checked, and just on and on and on, checking everything until finally it started working properly. Anyway, so you didn't really want to hear me talk about all that, did you? I might have to put a annotation into link to the actual demonstration. All right, so let's see what it does. First off, let's just look at what the steering does, and the steering just works from the compass only. It doesn't have anything to do with the GPS. Well, the GPS has 2 points. It has where it is now and where it was when it was turned on, and then the compass will try and point the car to that direction where it was when it started. So normally when I run this, I have it so that when it starts up, it takes 10 readings from the GPS and takes the average of those 10 readings and sets that as the home position. But the GPS doesn't work very well inside, and I'm not going to walk around and do stuff outside just here. So I've hard-coded the home location to be about 1 kilometer over in that direction somewhere. And I've also skipped the initial startup procedure. So instead of taking 10 readings from the GPS, it's just going to wait 5 seconds. So when I turn it on, it'll wait 5 seconds, and then it'll twitch the steering once like that, just so that I can see that it's ready to go. So now, if I have my radio on here, we should be able to... Okay, so I'm controlling it now, and when I flip this switch here on the radio, now it's using the compass and the GPS to turn the wheels. So it only ever drives forwards. So what it's going to do, if it drives forwards, it's going to turn this way, right? And when it starts pointing in the right direction, the wheels will straighten up. So hopefully you can see that the wheels are straightening up. If we go too far, the wheels start turning back towards that direction that it wants to go. So you can see that they're kind of straight about here. So if it was driving forwards, that's the direction it would end up going. And for my first test, I just got it to turn in that direction and then stop. So that's what I've programmed it here to do, just as a demonstration. So this time I'll turn the speed controller on as well. Alright, now when I turn the auto controller on, it should also spin the motors. And then when it points in the right direction, it stops. So hopefully you can see that what it would do at this point is just turn the car around so that it's facing the right direction and then stop. So that's what I did just in the little car park out in front of my house, because there's not much room. Then for the actual return to home check, I needed more space, so I went down to my testing area at the river and gave it a try. And I tried that a little bit today, and unfortunately I got interrupted by the power tripping groundskeepers down there, who told me that I had to go away and stop and stuff. I actually told them just to leave me alone, but by the time I'd finished talking to them, it was too dark to finish doing a proper test down there. So I'm going to go back tomorrow morning and try again when it gets light, and I'll put both of those sets of footage in here right now so you can see how it worked. Okay, I'm going to set the home plate of this baseball pitch as home, and then we'll see how well it can return to home. So it takes 10 readings from the GPS and records the average of that, and then it twitches the steering left and right like that. And now I'm still driving it here. Let's just see what it does right from home, because the GPS is not actually that accurate. Okay, so I'll switch the return to home on now. Right, it's not moving, so I guess it must have a fairly accurate reading. Alright, I'll go out to the pitcher's mound out there, and I'm having a lot of trouble steering. Alright, I'll switch it on here and see what we get. General direction is okay. Oh, not bad. Oh, shit. Oh, I was not expecting that, to be honest. Okay, I was not driving it just then. Honestly, let's... I'll just take this controller off my neck and I'll put it out there again and see if we can get it as good as that a second time while I'm proving to you that I'm not controlling it. bet it's not going to work now. Okay. So, when I switch this switch, hang on. Okay, ready? Go. Turn, turn, turn. There you go. Not too bad, eh? Okay, have it one more shot. See if we can get 3 in a row. It likes to turn that way, doesn't it, to start with? Oh, look at that. It's adjusting. That's a lot better than I thought, actually. So you can see as the GPS reading changes a bit, because it sort of wanders around and it's not very accurate. So it sort of adjusts and tries to go somewhere else. Good morning. Well, we're here again the day after, and we have much better sunlight at the moment now, so you should be able to see the car a little bit better on this camera, even though I can't zoom in. And I've already set the home position here on the home plate, and steering seems to be okay. So let's just take it out to first base and see if we can at least check that it was working the same as it was yesterday. Oh, it's a bit windy. Need some weights on this tripod. Okay, so I'll turn the auto return on here. Alright, that looks good. And oh, did I have the Mobius running? Let me check. Okay, I put the Mobius camera on there as well. It won't be that great of a view because it's right down close to the ground, but it might be interesting to watch. Okay, what I wanted to do yesterday before I got interrupted was go right out to the far right field, I guess you could say, which is the blue pole over there. You might not be able to see that very well in the video, but there's a blue pole way out at the corner of the field there, and we may have a bit of trouble starting up here because the grass is kind of long, and the way I've set the auto control, it doesn't use full throttle. It only uses about quarter throttle because I didn't want it going too fast. But we are right out there by the blue pole there now. You probably can't see it, I can barely see it myself. But baseball fans will probably be able to tell you how far away that blue pole is from here. Not that it really matters. I mean, if you have GPS, distances are kind of a moot point. But anyway, I'm going to put the transmitter on the ground in front of the camera so you can see that I'm not using it. And we'll see. Okay, looks like we're good to go. Alright, let's see how close we can get it. Looks like the grass is a bit long there. Try again. I just started it moving before I turned the auto return on because it doesn't have enough torque to get over the initial static friction or whatever you call it. But once it's moving, a quarter throttle is enough to keep it moving. So that looks pretty good. Look, it's coming straight down the line. Well, as straight as you could go when your steering doesn't return to centre properly. Oh, look at that. Can't complain about that, eh? I just noticed that the Mobius camera is filthy because the grass is still a little bit wet. It's not as bad as it is in summer when the grass is covered with the dew from the humidity overnight, but I might just try it on a concrete surface so we can keep the camera a little bit cleaner, and also so that we don't need to worry about that rolling torque startup thing at the beginning. So I'll just move along to a different place and see how we can do somewhere else. And we're in a different place, although I wouldn't be surprised if we get bothered here again, because this is some kind of police training facility for motorcycle police, but it's pretty early in the morning, so I don't think anyone's here. Will be here yet. So this point where it is at the moment has been set as the home position, that little steel plate on the ground, and I'm just going to take it out to about as far as I can see it. Definitely as far as you can see it on the camera. Should have put a flag on that little piece of wood that sticks up, shouldn't I? Then you can see it. So whether you can see it or not, it's directly out in front of us. Probably about 80-90 meters away, I'm guessing, close to 100 meters now. Okay, so that looks like about 100 meters away. Not that it really matters, I guess, because it's using GPS, so it doesn't really matter, does it? But this is a good test because I'm going to put the transmitter on the ground in front of the camera so you can see that I'm not using it, and we'll see how close it gets. So where I put the transmitter is the home position. It's kind of waggling backwards and forwards because the steering doesn't return to straight correctly. So when the car thinks it's going straight, it's not. Stop. Yep. Gonna adjust a little bit, yes. A little bit more, come on. What it's doing here is it's scaling the speed back depending on how close it gets. So when it's right on top of the home position, the speed will be 0. But it has to raise itself to a certain point before the wheels start turning. So it could be that it's actually detecting that it's not quite on the home position here, but it's just not enough. It's not giving enough throttle to actually start the motor turning, that's all. But it looks like it's pretty happy with that, and I'm pretty happy with that, so yeah, it works. Thanks for watching.